Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Ma ba'd. The question is asking about wiping over the normal socks. What we would call normal socks in the Arabic language is known as the jawrab. And this is the terminology that's been used in the books of fiqh and hadith, jawrab. Now the jawrab can be made out of wool, it could be made out of any material which is not the khuf. The khuf is the leather slipper or the leather sock. And the function of the khuf really is more like a boot. And inshallah more on that later. And it's actually very important that we understand the difference between the khuf and the jawrab, because part of discussing the mas'ala, the fuqaha have looked at it as in like, are we establishing qiyas with the jawrab alongside the khuf? Is there an analogy for them both, or is the jawrab a standalone hukm by itself? Inshallah more on that later. What's the ruling on wiping over the normal socks? In Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter number 5, ayah number 6, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. Now this can be recited in two ways. Either it's mansoob to the فَغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us here to wash your feet up to your ankles, or it's majroor bi wamsahu, meaning wamsahu bi ru'usikum. And another way of reciting this ayah, which is mutawatir also, wa arjulikum ila al-ka'bayn, and that is now connected to the wiping. If we recite it, arjulakum is connected to the washing, so the command now here is wash your feet up to your ankles. But if we connect it to the wamsahu by making it into arjulikum, it means wipe your feet up to your ankles. So with Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and I say with Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah because this has been mentioned in the books of fiqh as well as the books of aqidah, and the ulama of hadith have said that the ahadith pertaining to wiping are mutawatir, especially the fact that you find it in the books of tafsir but also found in Bukhari and Muslim. And this is the umda on this, which in the original hadith, or the hadith that the ulama have based their hukm on, is the hadith of Mughir ibn Shu'bah. And here we have Mughir ibn Shu'bah narrating this hadith for us as well. But the hadith Mughir ibn Shu'bah in Bukhari and Bukhari and Muslim is that he accompanied the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and he wiped over the khuf, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. And this is agreed upon Bukhari and Muslim. Therefore, we have a firm establishment of wiping over the khuf. Now here, I just want to highlight something here. Despite the fact, like I've said, that there is an agreement between the fuqaha, and that is found in the Quran, and that you'll find it in the books of Aqidah, this here is to highlight that this is an issue where the scholars have differed. It's an issue of ijtihad. It shouldn't be an issue where people start fighting and abandoning and say, I'm not going to pray behind this person, etc. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, it would be better for me to be cut into pieces with a knife than for me to wipe over the leather socks. Here we're talking about the khuf, we're not talking about the jawrab. And there are other narrations from companions as well where they have said that wiping is not allowed. So from this we understand that it's an issue of ijtihad, an issue of difference of opinion. But what's the correct opinion? If we go back to the kitab, like we have seen, if we go back to the sunnah, then we will see that wiping is well established over the khuf. Right. Can we draw an analogy, or does wiping over the sock have its own ruling? Now this hadith is disputed by the ulama. Many of the ulama have said that the hadith is sahih. Others have said that the hadith is da'if because of the presence of this person here, Abi Qais. Abu Qais, some of the ulama have said that he is da'if, and included in that is Imam Ahmad. But this chain of narration here has been made Hasan Sahih by Imam al-Tirmidhi, and that's the highest level of authenticity with Abu Isa al-Tirmidhi. He narrates that Mughir ibn Shu'bah narrated that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ performed wudu wa masaha ala jawrabayn wa na'alayn. He wiped over the normal socks and his shoes. And then At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah says that this is the view of wiping over the jawrab of Sufyan, Ibn Mubarak, Al-Shafi'i, Ahmad, Ishaq, and it's also the view of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. Abu Hanifa, he used to have the opinion that you don't wipe over the jawrabayn, but then just moments or days before he passed away rahimahullah, he wiped over the normal socks. And this is the view of his two companions as well, Abu Yusuf and Muhammad ibn Hassan. Whereas what is official from the madhab is that this hadith is da'if, and we cannot base a ruling on it, And there is no qiyas because the ayah in the Quran takes preference, which is to wash or wipe over the khuf. Whereas the three madhabs, as you have seen here, the madhab of Malik, Shafi and Ahmed, as well as many of the Hanafis, have said you can wipe over the jawrab. Now, some of the ulama have said that this hadith is da'if because of the presence of Abi Qais. There's another narration in Abu Dawood, an authority of Abu Sayyid al-Khudri, but there's a person called Isa ibn Sinan, and the ulama have said that he is da'if. Therefore, we cannot establish that the Messenger of Allah wiped over his jawrab. Therefore, they have said either you wash or you wipe over the khuf. These are the people who said that is not permissible. But others from the ulama have said, no, this hadith is sahih. And to support it, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, I'll give you an example of how Mustal hadith works. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he says that hadith is da'if. There's no doubt about that. Abu Qais is da'if. He is laying with Imam Ahmad, and many of the ulama have said that he is not to be accepted. However, the meaning is correct. How can the hadith be da'if with the meaning correct? Because we look at supporting evidences. And here we have a number of companions. Abu Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, he used to wipe over his socks. Abu Mas'ud, not Ibn Mas'ud, Abu Mas'ud. كان يمسح على الجوربين. Uqba ibn Amr, another one from the companions, أنه مسح على الجوربين من شعر. It was made out of hair. Mughira bin Shu'bah, this is the narration again, and remember we said Abu Qais is da'if. Umar radiyallahu anhu تودع يوم الجمعة ومسح على جوربيه ونعليه. He wiped over his shoes and his socks. So it's important for us to understand now here that we are now establishing that the wiping over the socks, it also includes wiping over the shoes, and we're going to talk about the conditions with the madhahib. However, it's important for us to understand also historically but also linguistically that the na'al is what is below the ankle, the shoes, like we have even according to our customs. So they have said if you are going to wipe over your shoes, they have to be connected to your sock, meaning you wear it with your sock. Or if you're going to wipe over your shoe, it has to cover your ankle. We'll more on that later, inshallah. Here we're just trying to establish, is there such thing as wiping over the jawrab? Here we have a narration from Hasan al-Basri, and like I said, there's so many narrations. Anas bin Malik used to wipe over his socks, etc. So now it's established that you can wipe over the jawrab. Is wiping over the jawrab a ruling in itself, or are we making qiyas? Again, more narrations here. But Abdullah bin Umar, this is the one I'm focusing here at the bottom, 1994. Al-mas al-jawrabain kal-mas al-khuffain. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Therefore, whether we call it qiyas or whether we are saying that it is a standalone ruling in itself, it is something which is established in the Sharia. Now, from the four madhahib, they have said there has to be conditions when it comes to the jawrab. This is because they are making qiyas between the khuf, whereas others from the scholars are not making qiyas. And more on that we will see from the conditions. The first condition they have said, and this is again from the four madhabs, that it has to stick to your foot. The jawrab has to stick to your foot. So if you're wearing a sock and it keeps slipping down below your ankle, not acceptable. It has to be worn like a boot would be worn. And this is, I would say, for the most part, how we wear our socks today. The second condition they have said is that it has to cover your ankle. It has to cover your ankle because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Il ka'bayn, wiping has to go up to your ankle. And if it doesn't go up to your ankle, then you can't wipe over them. And this is the view of the four madhabs. The third condition that they have put on the jawrab is that the person is able to walk on it without them disintegrating. And this makes sense if you think about it. A person wipes over his socks, walks a little bit, and then they fall apart. What's he wearing now? He's wearing something that hasn't been wiped over because it's disintegrated, it's torn, and he's not washed over his feet. So then how is he going to pray? So they have said that the third condition is that it has to be something that he's able to walk in. And again, I would say that this is the case for most of our socks that we're wearing today. You can wear it for months and months and it won't rip and it won't get damaged. But the scholars from the four madhahib have differed as to what is meant by it not getting damaged and not getting torn. The Maliki and the Hanabila says it depends on customs. A jawrab in its durability depends on customs, meaning if it is something that you can walk in and it's not going to, like I've said, become damaged and torn, disintegrate, customarily, then that's how we would understand it. And for me, that seems to be the more correct opinion. The Hanafis have said as long as you can walk in it with the distance of a farsakh, and a farsakh is roughly around 3 miles, meaning if you can walk in these socks for 3 miles and nothing's going to happen to them, then you can wipe over them. The Shafi'iyya have said as long as he is able to wipe on them, go to the bathroom, come back and perform wudu and do this on a regular basis, then we can wipe over them. This is a jawrab that can be wiped over. So that's now the third condition, that the durability. And the fourth condition and the final condition, now this is the issue where the scholars have differed. If you were to wash over your foot, meaning are they waterproof? If you were to pour water over your foot, would that water leak through? Now here, it's important that we understand the difference between it seeping through and the material absorbing it and then you can feel it through your foot. The second one is not what is intended, meaning you wipe over your sock, eventually that water will seep through and then you might feel some of it on your foot. That's not what we're talking about here. Here what they're saying here is that if you got some water and you poured it on top of your foot, then why are you wiping? You should be washing, because this thing here is not protecting it in that way. This has been mentioned by the three madhabs, the Hanafis, the Malikis and some of the Hanabila. But the Shafi'iyya and some of the Hanabila and Ibn Taymiyyah have said there is no dalil for this. And it goes back to whether we are saying that the jawrab is a ruling standalone by itself, or are we drawing a comparison with the khuf. So the second view is that the jawrab is a standalone. As you can see here, the evidence is the Messenger of Allah, if you were to say that it's sahih, even if you don't say that it's sahih, then it's well established by the Salaf that you can wipe over the jawrab. So then where is the evidence to say that it has to be waterproof? And again, like we've said before, this is an issue where the scholars have differed, and it's an issue of ijtihad, it's an issue of respecting one another and understanding one another. And it's not an issue of, like I've said, turning away and leaving the jama'ah. But this is, for me, what seems to be the more correct view, and the view of many of the contemporaries, including many fiqh councils. But certain scholars, certain major scholars have said, no, the socks that you're wearing today don't fit all the four conditions that we have mentioned. For me, what seems to be the case, this is now the conclusion, that most of the socks that we wear, if it fulfills these four conditions, then it's permissible for a person to wipe over them in a manner that has been, described in the books of fiqh, that they are clean, that they are pure, that they cover the ankles, that the person's done wudu, that he's making the wiping over them for minor impurity and not major impurity, until the end of the conditions that the scholars have mentioned. But here we're just talking about the ruling on wiping over the jawrab as a concept, is it permissible or not? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us purification internally as well as externally. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts our acts of worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to get closer to Him in a manner that is beloved to Him. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله على محمد.